Last time on Building Resilience, we were inside a well-defined hole trying to keep warm and learning about frost heave in the process. We also filmed Michael competing with the wind for the plastic's attention. During that, we learned what sand boulders are.
That's a sand boulder.
Frozen chunks of wet sand. They're great for holding down plastic, but the same mechanism could cause frost heave and completely sabotage our winter construction
Because the
efforts.
water gets into the sand so quickly, it would freeze right around our footing, potentially under the footing, and soils will heave here. And that would just wreak havoc on the entire structure. So it's super critical that we tent. Second is also because we got to come in and put in some rock, some more insulation. We got to pour a slab down there.
Speaking of the slab, it's going to be isolated from the ground, so therefore warm and dry.
And then across the entirety of the floor, we have 3 inches of insulation for R15. We're really here, we're just looking to make sure that there's no thermal transfer through the footing itself into the earth. And at this corner here, we're already R15 on the other side. So it's a very warm corner. We're not gonna see any of those conditions where you have like weird condensing corners and stuff take place on the slab. It's a super simple detail. It works amazingly, and the slab doesn't need in-floor heat to be warm because it's not losing so much heat to the ground and to the walls. Just heating this room, the slab will take on some of that heat, kind of like a giant radiator, and throw it back to you like a T-mast type thing. So that's our floor.
And that brings us to where we are now. The old addition is off the back of the house and in the recycle bin out front. The recycle bin out front is on the truck, and the truck is headed to recycle heaven, or someplace. Now, it's time to frame a new addition atop the foundation we were sitting in last time. They'll frame a new floor and walls atop the new foundation, and the exterior sheathing, zip R12 insulated sheathing, will cover the new and existing structures spanning the connection. A unique problem with winter remodeling is heat flow. From frost heaving to frozen pipes to uncomfortable homeowners and miserable workers, it's important to keep the inside warm and the outside out.
One of the challenges in Minnesota is keeping things warm. We've got a furnace sitting down in the basement that we excavated, and we've got a little bit of heat that's getting piped up into this space, but then we have all these window openings. And with this assembly, it doesn't make sense to sheet over the windows and go back and cut them all out. That would not work. So we have openings, and luckily we have a bunch of 1/2-inch foam on site that we were able to nail up over the windows and keep the space warm. Interesting stuff in here is mostly on the structural side of things. We've got a piece of steel running above my head that drops onto a nice PSL column off to the side. We were working around the existing chimney. We did a lot of really cool tile work on the other side and wanted to preserve the tile, so we had to preserve the chimney, and that meant we ended up with a bunch of additional LVLs that have to frame around, basically like girders that go around the chimney over here. This is our balloon framed stairwell. This is original to the house. It's actually a cantilevered balloon framed stairwell structure. 25 years, I have never seen anything quite like it. It's had sagged a little bit, so we've jacked it back up. That's gonna get braced below. But again, our floor framing all has to run independent of it. So it's fairly unique how much of our floor framing is not running all the way back like it would in typical construction.
On the new floor, there'll basically be 3 new walls that die into the existing structure. Each of these walls has a very different job and very different requirements, so the construction of each is very different.
On this wall, we've got our zip R12 over 2x4 framing. We'll finish it out on the other side with our
Benjamin update.
rain slicker and then our AZIC 3/4 PVC panel system on top of that. Okay, so this wall is our wall type 2. It's a shear wall. And we have OSB on the outside of this wall as well as the inside of this wall. And then we'll have our zip, or we have our zip on top of that layer of OSB. So essentially we end up with 3 layers of 7/16 OSB on this wall. It's heavy, it's not going to move, and that's important because hanging from this opening is going to be a giant glass box. We are super excited about what's going to happen here. It's framed a little bit differently. We've got some built up 6 posts on either side. This is our shear wall. We don't have our zip down below, but we have it on this section of wall, so you'll have to see how it all comes together. But through this opening, Marvin's come up with this thing. It's their take on a bow bay window type deal. A big steel frame will bolt to the side of the house, and I'll get glass on 4 sides. So glass, 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 and glass. So you'll be able to sit on here in a nice Doug fir bench, sticking 2 feet out into space, staring into this beautiful tree. So we have 2x6 framing really just in this section, from this wall to this wall and down to right where my foot is. So the rest of that will be insulated, but this portion alone will be insulated from the interior. There's not a good way to get exterior insulation with that heavy. It's an 800-pound window, and we just couldn't have the compression of the foam as part of that mix. Okay, so you're probably wondering, why is this yellow and not green? What's this Den's glass doing on the house? Well, the answer is proximity to the property line and adjacent property. Fire code requires that we install a layer of gypsum between our framing and our cladding system. Now, Den's Glass Gold, interesting enough, was our standby go-to material for many, many years before we started using the Zip products and the Zip R12. It's super durable. It's rated for great weather exposure. We actually really like using this product quite a bit, so it's an obvious candidate for us to put between the layers here. So this is just a fireproofing layer, nothing more, and it'll get buried underneath the Zip R12, which you can see working its way up the wall.
With the 3 main wall types well defined and mostly built, we're going to jump up on the roof next time. But don't worry, it's mostly flat.
Ugh. That's pretty cool.
When we jump up there, we're going to discover that parts of it are spongy.
So this old balloon frame house, we knew basically how they built it, but we weren't 100% sure until we opened it up. And we had a bunch of theories on how they built this roof structure, and none of them were right.
So we need to break out the demo bucket again and frame a slightly pitched over roof. After it's framed, we'll grab some zip system sheathing off the pile, put it on the line, and nail it.